I've said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony and fire 2 blasts outside the house. Buy a shotgun, buy a shotgun. You don't need a machine gun, you don't need 30 rounds. Buy a shotgun, buy a double-barrel shotgun.
No, you don't need a flamethrower, and you don't need a tank. You don't need an AR-15 to scare those thugs away. No, and I don't need a grenade launcher, I don't need an F-15. There's just one thing I need to do, and they'll stay away from me.
Fire 2 blasts outside the house. Buy a shotgun,
Buy a shotgun,
buy a shotgun.
yeah, buy a shotgun, baby.
You don't need a machine
You don't
gun,
need a machine
you don't need
gun.
30 rounds.
Way too many
Buy shotguns, buy a double-barrel shotgun.
It's not just, that's the gift that keeps on giving, right, Patriots? Hey, guys, it's Melissa Red Pill the World. I hope you guys are having a great day. So much news to cover. We're going to talk about how we're winning and what Q just told us about fighting in this battle. We're going to talk about Biden and Burisma. I'm going to give you some good stuff about that. I'm going to talk about some Gasara stuff I found. I'm going to talk about King of England, and I've got a surprise for you at the end. So let's jump in. I'm Melissa, Red Pill the World. We look at the Q post. Everybody say it with me. The Q post, the current events, and the Trump tweets in the light of God's word, because this is the great day of the Lord. This is the day where we're casting out these evil tyrants, and this is going to be the end of them. We are winning, and there's no stopping us. There's no stopping. Nothing will stop this. So let's see what Q has to say. We're taking our oath. Are y'all ready? Put your right hand up. This looks like my left hand, but it's actually my right. Right? And let's say, repeat after me. Say it with me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Where we go one, we go all. There you go. Now it says, Q also said that we are, soon we'll have the People's General, General Flynn. He was just exonerated completely. All the charges were dropped today, and yes, some information's coming out about that. We're going to go over that. I take this oath. I've taken this oath long ago that I'm going to fight until we win. That's all there is to it. And I know that's why you're here, because we're not playing on this. We're not. These people will not stop. So we will not stop until they are cast out. And we can take them with 95% of humanity can take this 5%. I know they've got a lot of power. They still have a lot of control, but we can take them. Q said it's the first time ever that this has been attempted. So here's what he told us today, the 24th of June at noon. He says, you've been selected to help serve your country. Feel proud. You've been selected. You've been selected by the angels. Remember, I was talking about that the angels have come and gathered us to go and fight in this battle. Never retreat from the battlefield. Your battlefield is the social media. That's where we can communicate most effectively. Yes, you can talk to neighbors, you can, individually with that, which is great, but that's really where you can reach so many people. So never retreat, but you've got to play it smart, right? Use other platforms as a form of centralized command and control. Let's say if I had a Freedom Force Battalion site, we'd say, okay, we're going to meet there, get some marching orders, and then go. Right, and that's the same thing here with the YouTube Freedom Force Battalion. That's where we get some good stuff and then we share it, right? So he's just making sure that we don't go off in a corner and talk and be in an echo chamber. That we all go, right, and expose the truth, right? Organize and connect. Source memes material from Battlefield and/or Garage. I don't know what the Garage is about. I don't know, but anyway, so source the memes. He gave us some memes. I'm not going to show them because I can't stand to look at Obama and Biden, but whatever memes you have, because as you know, people, as they're scrolling, they don't really stop to look at the pictures, at the verbiage. They'll stop though and look at a picture. So blast those out, put that out everywhere. Make yourself a goal that every day you're going to blast out at least 5 memes. Seriously. That's like my bullets. I've got to shoot my 5 bullets today. Okay. And so if there's all of us, let's say now we have 45,000 on our channel. if all of us is doing that, 45,000 times 5, we can make a dent in getting the truth out there, and they can't stop us. Okay. So that's why when he gives us a meme, we don't get to like save it with the same name, because they could easily go in and say, delete all those names. But when we have a meme and you've saved it with one name and Sally saved it with another name, they can't catch it all. They're just too much. And that's what we have to do. Just bombard. Bam, 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 right? Mission number 1, dispute propaganda push through posting of research and facts. It's hard to get through with facts to people sometimes, but that's what we've got to do. This is what they're hearing, and then you come back with the facts, right? Number 1. Number 2, our second mission is support role of other digital soldiers. So if you see someone has posted something, hit a like, hit a reply, do something so that people know that you're in agreement with that, and support them. Okay, so they aren't standing out there flailing in the wind. So support each other everywhere we can. This is what the Bible talks about in Joel chapter 2. It says they never break ranks. They never break ranks. Something's going on. Let me see what's happening. So what I was trying to say is in Joel chapter 2, it says we never break ranks. We always march in lockstep, and that's what we have to do so that we don't overstep each other. We support each other every which way we can. Okay, so think about that strategically. If someone sees a post, if they see someone who's more people who are bolstering that argument, then they're more likely to accept it. Okay, it's just human nature. Okay, mission number 3, guide or awaken others through use of facts and memes. Ask counter questions to initiate thought versus repeat the MSDNC propaganda, not just to say what they say. Okay, so I'm not terribly good at this because I normally don't do the Socratic method. I'm not very good at that. So let's try. I'm going to try to do that, to ask questions. Like something about, have you thought about how this was funded with all these riots? They sure did look organized. And did you see about those bricks that were out there? I mean, have you heard of who was funding this? And that can maybe lead them to say, no, I haven't heard. Well, I've read something about, there was a man named Soros. Have you ever heard of Soros? Asking these types of questions might go, hey, I never really thought about that. How could this happen? Oh, did you hear there's some subpoenas going on? And what do you think about that? What do you think about these subpoenas? What subpoenas you talking about? So, to get them to go, hey, maybe there's something else going on than what we're hearing on the news, or or this whole fake news thing. What do you think about that fake news? Isn't that crazy? What do you think about that? So to get to hear what their thoughts are. And so, so that's what he's saying for us to do, is counter questions. Number 4, because a lot of people will not dig. But if you maybe get them going, that happened with me with a girlfriend today, and we got into a whole big discussion, and all of a sudden I saw the wheels going. She was like, wait, I hadn't even thought about that. All right, so learn to use camouflage. I was talking about this a little bit yesterday. When you do a video, let's say if this whole video that you might want to show or share, they would easily find that video and grab it and delete it. But if you take just a clip of it and share that, it's less likely they'll be able to catch it. Okay, so how can we camouflage? Let's say, or if your account, let's say your Twitter account has been suspended, maybe you can find another phone, you can create another account, do something so that you can create an account so you can go back in the battle, okay, and fight, or on Instagram or somewhere else. Find somewhere that you can fight in the battle. Identify strengths and weaknesses regarding Twitter and Facebook. For example, memes there's a failure to read through the use of the algorithm. They can't catch the picture. They can't tell what that picture says. So they have to physically, they have to have the manpower to go and look at the picture and determine what is this picture talking about to see if they're going to delete it. Okay. Whereas if it's the name of a file or some keywords or even hashtags that it can trigger for them to go, hey, this is something we want to delete, and they just the algorithm automatically deletes those. Okay, so think about, how can I put this in such a way, in my tweet, so that people can read it, but it won't be caught by the computer. Okay, that's what he's trying to tell us. All right, so because there would be person-to-person capture, they would have to physically look at it. But if we have literally millions and millions and millions of people out here just shooting this truth, they cannot catch it all. Okay, even though we saw on the Project Veritas video how they're, so many of them are going in and just deleting a lot, they can't catch that many. We just have too many. We're overwhelming. Just this locust army of Joel chapter 2 is just overwhelming force. Isn't that great? All right, so let's keep going. What else did Q have to say? He just posted this just before I came on, the Shane Huntley. Interesting, this was routed, that he posted this. Let me show you what he posted. Waiting outside a lunch place in Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley. Today, I heard a middle-aged woman calmly explaining QAnon to her friend and how it's all part of some grand plan by Trump to rebuild the U.S. government. Jarring to run across this in the real world here. Because he lives behind a laptop screen and moderating and doing all this through Google. He is let me show you what his job is. He is a Google Threat Analysis Group. Google Threat Analysis Group. So Google Threat is like us. I think that we're their number one threat. And so he's trying to counter this. And now he just hears someone out at the lunch counter place somewhere in town talking about this. That's so powerful. When we're all, make it your aim every day to talk to, people in your town. Just put a little nugget out there. You don't have to be like bombarding them. Just a little nugget, and to, put something in their mind to think about. Yeah, so that was pretty cool that he just said, "Deep dreaming, young dragonfly." That's funny. It's great. I love Q so much. All right, so he posted this also. He said, this scale this generates is disproportional enough to distort public perception. In 2018, Ng identified close to 30 million uses of the word QAnon across Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit, 4chan, all across. That was 30 million. That was back in 2018. How many do you think there are now? A lot more. Numbers today dwarf past estimates. Handle with care, okay? So let's make sure that we are using this great control, ability to control the thought and the understanding of what the truth is, but we handle it with care because we see how the mainstream media has abused it. So yeah, this article here was talking about, they're talking about, PEDO and all that. So let's just be careful about how we use it so we don't look like wild-eyed, crazy people, right? So let's make sure that it's something very thought-provoking, very something that would cause people to say, I want to find out more about what's going on. All right, so now what else did he say? Oh, this is that one. All right, so make sure that you click right now. Take a second, real quick, go and click like and share, okay? Find a way to share this information. We are going to look at how this is the biblical promise, biblical times, which is what Q has talked about. And make sure your bell is rung, but come back every day or two to see what's the latest news here. I'm trying to make my videos shorter because I know you guys have limited time. I really try to put the latest news on here in the light of God's word. So, because I know, some of you don't really have a lot of time to do the research. All right, so now let's talk about this whole Biden thing with Burisma. And I'm going to try to go through that video. It's like an hour-and-a-half video, and either get clips of it. A lot of it's in a language you can't understand. So there's a lot of reading. I was thinking, do I want to read it out? Anyway, but the best thing that I think for you to do is to go and watch Rudy Giuliani's videos. Rudy W. Giuliani, Giuliani. This is Victor Shokin right here. He's talking to him, and Rudy is, and finding out what happened. What happened? So basically, this is a very good man. Victor, like is a victory, right? He he found out that all this corruption had taken place with President Poroshenko and with Biden, and how they're using all this money that was going over there, and it's all going to their cronies, how they're taxing the people, and it's all going to them. It's just total corruption. So he's going to get to the bottom of it. He's going to prosecute it. Well, no, he's not, because they said, well, you're not going to get the money unless he's fired. Okay, that's what happened. That's one of the things that happened. But Rudy Giuliani goes into a lot of detail. The other one is this one right here, which was really, really good. This guy, I can't remember his name, whatever his name is, episode number 5, where and here's the one, episode number 5 is where this guy comes in and he tells all the dirt about what was going on with this corruption with Biden family corruption and in Ukraine. So the other thing is episode 4, this is where I'm sure you've seen where Biden was saying, well, if you don't fire this guy, you aren't going to get the money. I mean, he's the great news for us is he's such a blowhard. He's always opening his mouth and admitting to what he's doing, because he never thought anybody could do anything about it. He was wrong. He was wrong. He never expected Trump to be elected. All right, so this was what Technofog posted, and Q did a Q drop about it, and this is about Obama, Comey, Yates, Biden, and Susan Rice. So he's going into all this stuff about Flynn. So Biden's not only involved with the Burisma, he's also involved with this with the Flynn and how they were railroading him. So I retweeted this. I know that they can identify this. These are some of the notes that came out from this Flynn case. I'll read just a little bit to you. Strzok's notes, believed to be of January 4th, 2017, revealed that former President Obama, James Comey, Sally Yates, Joe Biden, and apparently Susan Rice discussed the transcript of Flynn's calls and how to proceed against him, using their power of the intelligence agencies, using the CIA and the FBI and the powers of the president to go against Flynn to stop him. Mr. Obama himself directed that the right people investigate General Flynn. This is why Q posted treason, pictures of them with crimes, with the exact crime that they were. I guess I'll show you that. I hate to even show it to you, but I will real quick. Okay, where'd it go? This one right here. Yeah, U.S. Code, 18 U.S. Code 2384, seditious conspiracy, U.S. Code 2381, treason. You think that would get some people's attention? What do you mean, treason? And to show them this. You can't do that for your political enemies and use the power of the government to come and railroad someone. The former FBI Director Comey acknowledged the obvious. Flynn's phone calls appear legit. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's legit. We're going after him anyway. So let's see what else. He had another picture in here. Some of these were kind of hard to read. Yeah, so this whole thing is treason to the max, that people, generally they're just going about their business. This would be great to share with people so they understand this is Watergate times a million. All right. So again, Biden's involved. And of course, we can't talk about it because he's a political opponent. That won't work. All right, so definitely check out that. I'll put a link in the description box below. Now, here I want to jump in and talk about NESARA. This is a man, his name is Charles Ward. He has this site that he has created, and he's been talking about the Queen has left everyone, all of these people, the royals have left Buckingham Palace. We're here in America, maybe you don't even know about that, but Prince Andrew's gone, Charles, Harry, all of them, Queen, all of them have left Buckingham Palace. What is going on? You can say, COVID. Well, I would think of all the places in the world that Buckingham Palace would probably be the safest place to be. So there's something else going on, and people are starting to realize, hey, there's something else, right, to it. So this man, Charles Ward, has been in discussing about Joseph Gregory Hallett. I have a video about, 2 weeks ago that I did, and there's compelling evidence that he is the legit king of England, and he's not going to play it. If this is true, which everything looks legit, and that the Queen has been removed because she's not legitimate. The documentation shows it. It's on the website king.uk. King.of.uk, and you can see the documents on there, and that they put everyone on notice and say, hey, tell us if if you have any problem with this, and no one's had a problem with it, right? Because it's a fact that he is the true heir. So I want to talk about that a little bit. But so Charles has gone into a lot of detail on his channel, Charles Ward. Okay, I'll put a link below on that too. But here he's talking about some discussions he's had with some very influential and wealthy people. He does a lot of he said one day, he said something about, he does like money transfers and that type of thing. So he's in with some movers and some shakers. So listen to what he has to say.
You said that Trump will decide if he wants to go forth or step down, right? That's what you said?
That's correct.
Okay, is that because, I mean, we are going to have elections, right? Did you see elections, or are you saying there's going to be no elections because all this stuff's going to come out to the light?
We're going to go through the process, right, of the election.
I was told that the election will be nothing like you've ever seen before, whatever that means.
Wow.
Wow, okay.
So they don't tell him everything, but he gets little snippets because he's chatting with these very influential people. And I want to tell you right now, there's no way that Biden will win. If y'all are ever thinking that, I don't care what the news says. Maybe Hillary could have won, but this is especially after all that Trump has done. And Q has told us that the support for Trump is like this giant iceberg underneath. It's just outrageous, right? So just don't let them worry you about that. But so check what he says about instituting GESARA 120 days before elections. Okay, check that.
And just remember, for those of you who followed the NESARA GESARA, legally in the documentation, when you declare NESARA, you've got 120 days before an election. So it forces all 209 countries that have signed up to it to have an election. But I think before that we get to that stage, Trump will need to make sure that he has removed the evil from each country that's in this system. And that includes the leadership in Spain. They'll be removed, but they will be replaced, or the choice will be those that are on side with Trump, with NESARA and GESARA.
What is GESARA? NESARA is the new money system, right? NESARA, isn't that what it is?
NESARA is the national system for America.
Okay.
GESARA is the global system for the rest of the world.
Okay, so
they're the same. One's national, one's global.
So everybody else will be using the global, and then we'll have our own national?
Yeah, it was only because it was written in America as a national thing. And
okay.
The rest of the world said, yeah, we want to be a part of this. So they adapted it for the rest of the world and called it GESARA, which is the global one rather than the national one.
And it's going to be like equal trading, like every dollar's going to match or something, right? Okay.
Correct.
And what's going to happen to the
Because all the money will be backed by gold. Okay, so check it out.
IRS and Federal Reserve? They're just gone?
The Federal Reserve will disappear, but it will be a gradual process. He's already swallowed it up into the Treasury.
Right. I noticed that when he wrote the checks for the 1,200 or whatever it was, it said the Treasury and then signed by Donald Trump. I was like, okay, that's odd. If it was still the Federal Reserve, wouldn't it have said the Federal Reserve on there? Or am I right?
The transition has already started. The new USN has already been launched, but it's not public knowledge yet.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware about what's happened in China. Did I discuss that with you or not?
The new Chinese Republic, right?
The new Chinese Republic is, and the dragon notes and the gold dragon bonds and the gold bonds have been monetized in Switzerland last weekend. There's about $100 quadrillion worth of Chinese notes, and they've actually liquidated 100 trillion of them, monetized 100 trillion, and as of last weekend, America no longer has any debt.
That's right.
China no longer has any debt.
So okay, so the Chinese Republic has no debt. This new Chinese Republic. Okay, so these old creeps can go away. We don't care what they do. We're going to have a free country. They're going to have a free country in China. Can you imagine? This is why President Trump's been spending money like it's water, right? I believe this is accurate. You know, this is everything I've been researching. This, I think this is very, very accurate. This makes sense that this is the transition to greatness President Trump's been talking about. And GESARA is where we no longer, there's no longer an IRS. We no longer pay taxes. I mean, this is going to have to come out soon because July 15th is coming, and we would soon have to pay taxes in July. So I wonder if this the 4th of July week, the week to remember, is maybe where this is rolled out. I don't know. We'll find out.
Exciting.
Go ahead, Denise.
No, I said that's exciting news, and we're not going to hear that from the mainstream media.
No, you're not.
But the moment the money was paid back into the Federal Reserve, who had lent the money in the first place, so you've got all these trillions of dollars paid back into the Federal Reserve from Russia, China, and the United States. So there's zero debt. Then there was a subpoena issued against the Federal Reserve for fraud.
That's the reason, is because all of this was fraudulent. The IRS was fraudulent. The Federal Reserve was fraudulent. All this interest that was charged, it was all fraudulent. And so these people have been subpoenaed because they know that this was fraudulent, and they've been caught with they can't undo it. Their hands in the cookie jar for stealing from all of humanity. Okay, so this, and not only the Federal Reserve in the United States, but every central bank. Q told us this, like in Q post number 80 or something, way back. He gave us a list of all of the central banks that will be transitioned to be true banks that are backed by gold, the reserves for the country, which is what this should have been from the beginning. Okay, so anyway, so check it out.
And the guys there were all arrested.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is the money going to still stay?
Yeah. All right. So that was the main thing I wanted you to hear from Charles. And okay, so he's also talking a lot about Joseph Gregory Hallett. All right. So in the past, it has been where it was run by basically. Hang on, real quick. All right. So the Queen of England basically ran the world. Had if you remember me showing you the documentation where they said this is the Australia is a commonwealth in the United States, because it was their company. They were running a company called Australia out of the United States, that all of the United States was a corporation for the Queen, that all of these places that were ruled by under the Queen were really their business enterprise, their corporation. Okay, and called a commonwealth, but it's basically a corporation. Joseph Gregory Hallett is not going to do it that way. He's really not talked about that, but I'm just telling you from what the Bible talks about, is that these have been in control of the world. They were, years ago, England, with all the colonization and all of that, the colonial times, where they went all throughout the world and just gathered up nation after nation after nation, okay, and then became the queen of all of it, the king of all of it. That's over. This is the end of that whole system. And I'm going to show you what the Bible talks about. This is in both Daniel chapter 4 and 7, I believe. It talks about these beasts. Basically, it's these empires, and there are actually a couple of different interpretations of this. One in the ancient times and one in modern times. I really do think that's probably accurate. But the modern times is where this lion has the wings of an eagle, which is really interesting. But who do you think of as the lion? Of course, England, right, is the lion. And so they have gone and colonized the world and just been like a ravaging lion and overtaking all of the world. And then you have the bear, which I think is likely Russia, and it's going and overtaking so much and not, I don't think even the current day really, to be honest, but a lot of the ones in the past have just been so ruthless. I'm thinking Stalin and that. And then you've got the leopard with 4 heads. I really do think this is the beginning of the Nazi regime, and in Germany, and how it's had the 4 Reichs in Germany. So these were the kingdoms, but then this last one, this beast, this is the one that we're fighting right now. This is the New World Order. This is the one that's overtaken the whole world. It talks about it in Daniel. It says, and I'll read a little bit of it to you, but that it says it was just crushing. Let me go ahead and read a little bit of it to you. Daniel chapter 7. The first was a lion, like a lion. It had wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a human being. And the mind of a human was given to it. And there before me was a second beast, which looked like a great bear. It was raised up on one of its sides. It had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, get up and eat your fill of flesh. These are just all these horrible kingdoms that are oppressive, tyrannical empires. Okay. After that, I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. These have ruled over us, over all of humanity. Okay, but that day is drawing to a close. Number 7, verse 7. After that, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. Iron teeth. Sounds like the New World Order. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts. It had 10 horns. While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully. And as I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. In other words, they're being judged for what they have done to humanity, their crimes against humanity. And then I watched continue to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking. I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. That's where we are. We've been through all these beasts, and now we're at the point where this beast is being thrown into the blazing fire. The book of Revelation calls it the abyss. In other words, away from us. Wherever it is, it's away from us. And then the other beasts that had been stripped of their authority were allowed to live for a period of time. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because when he's the king, Joseph Gregory Hallett is the king of England, is he going to be where he runs the whole world like the Queen did? Well, currently he has had a power, the same powers that the Queen had gathered to herself. And so from what I understand, he's been using that power to get rid of the Knights of Malta, who were the money changers, the money controllers, the fiat money controllers in the Vatican. Okay, so that broke. One day we're going to find out exactly what happened at every step of the way, but that has been broken. So now we can have what they were talking about here, where the gold is transferred to the nations, transferred so that everyone's money is backed by gold. Their GDP is backed by gold, okay? And their debt, everyone's going to be debt-free, all the nations will be debt-free. And it says these other beasts, notice it have been stripped of their authority, but were allowed to live for a period of time. So I believe what that means is that these nations, if this is a correct interpretation, is that England and Russia and Germany will continue to be a nation, but they will not have the oppressive, tyrannical power. They will not have evil rulers using these nations to oppress humanity. No longer will we have a ruthless queen. No longer will we have basically all these nations that have been used. It wasn't the regular people. It was the rulers who were using these nations to oppress. Okay, so yeah, no more of these beasts at all. So these beasts are they're cast out. But bottom line, these nations are still there. So the reason I'm bringing it up is because every nation will have its own king or president or whatever, okay? And so Joseph Gregory Hallett will, from what I can tell, from the research and from understanding the word, he will be the king of a nation just like any other, okay? And he won't have more power than others and be able to oppress, okay? And so what he's doing right now is using the authority that he has to bring justice. From what I can tell, that's what he's using the authority that he already has to do that. Again, so much of this is still in the phase of getting rolled out. So, and it very much looks like that's what the case is. Anyway, I'm not going to read any more about that, but that is Daniel chapter 7 if you want to read more. And this video right here, I called it QAnon New World Order / Beast Fatal Wound is Going Down This Time, Daniel 7. This is one of my very first videos, so you can check that one out if you want to learn more about Daniel chapter 7. All right. Now, this is the book. I haven't heard anything more about the audio getting approved. It's still in the works, so be in prayer for that can get done quickly. On this, I go into the Daniel. I go into several of all these prophecies that it talked about, and I break it down and talk about how they lied to us about so much of it. All right. So the other thing is, Giuliani had this video out on the 19th, just a couple of days ago, and he had Brad Parscale on here, and they were talking about an October surprise. This is the campaign manager for President Trump. So I was listening to it. So what is this going on? Well, he's not giving it away, but there's something that's going to happen between now and the election that will enable us to get the truth out to the people. And so he's talking about a lot of electioneer, that's not a right word, but where they're gathering all this information. And so when they do that, then they can easily bypass the mainstream media and go straight to the people and not have to do that. So that's what's so great about even when they got all these people who signed up. It's kind of funny when you think about it. They signed up to go to the Trump rally, and they're like, we're going to hijack the Trump rally. Well, guess what? In order to sign up, they got their information, and they can be sending them messages and going on to their stream. We will see. We will see how this all plays out, but do not worry. There's no way we're going to lose. All right, so I have a surprise. All right, so I've been working on something. I told you about this the other day. Okay, so before, let me see. Let me show you. I guess I'll just go ahead and show you a picture of it. This is my new book. Okay, so I wrote this book about 5 years ago. Long story short, I'm just gonna give you a little snippet of it. So back in the day, I was working at different companies, and I would always have like a Bible study group. If anybody wanted to come and have prayer and the word, they could. And so I don't know, something happened to me, and I just began to go, I've got to really just do this more full time. God just lit a fire under me that there was just such a great need out there. And so I went. So then when that company shut down, my husband and I talked about it. We prayed about it, and I went into ministry full time in my little town. Well, I was trying to find ways that I could get information out. Well, I read this great book. Oh my goodness, it's the best book. It's called Jesus, the Man Who Loved Women. It's stories about real people who had met Jesus and what it was like to meet him and the interaction that they had and the connection that they had with him. Instead of it just being very topical about, oh, this person, he met this person and he healed them. It was much more than that. It's about a personal relationship, and that they became to know him on a very personal level and how much he cared about what was going on with them. So beautiful. So beautiful. It's one of my favorite books ever. So, then I wanted to, it's hard to find that book. It's very hard to get a whole copies of it. And so I said, well, what can I do? So I said, well, maybe I'll just write one myself. So that's what I did. I wrote this book, and it's about 9 people who actually met Jesus, and they got to know him personally. And what it would have been like. Can you imagine if you had been that person and you're getting to meet him, or he's coming in and he's healing you, and what would it have been like? So what I'm doing here in this book is I haven't even worked with it for such a long time. I said, you know what, I've got this book, and I really do think a lot of you will really enjoy it, because you're saying that your faith has been renewed. You're realizing that God is real. This is real. And that, yeah, they made it out like, real judgmental and real, hateful and all that. And you realize God is real, and he's coming to save us, and he loves us. So, and which makes me so, so, so happy. But as much as you like my book, QAnon and 1,000 Years of Peace, and it gives you hope that this is the day when we're going to be rescued from these creeps, the New World Order, this book I think you're going to love. And it's just, I'm putting out there for $2. And also, there's also the one, I just got it up. Oh my goodness, it took so much effort for $5 to get the print out. I was able to get that one, the print paperback for $5, $4.99. So anyway, so to have this, where you can read it and imagine yourself as that person, what would you have felt like? And so you get the idea of his amazing heart. So I'm just going to read a little snippet. Maybe one day I'll just do a video where I read the whole thing, a whole chapter to you. Oh dear, I closed it. What did I do? Hang on real quick. I'll be right back. All right, so it's got 9 chapters, one for each of the people who met him. Okay, in this book, there's lots more people that met him, but I'm going to read you a little bit about Bartimaeus. Have you ever heard of Bartimaeus? And imagine you're Bartimaeus. Okay, that was very, very long ago. It was even long ago for our long ago story of poor blind Bartimaeus. Same town. Fast forward 1,000 years, actually 1,400 years. I wonder what it's like to live in a city with such a historic history. The miracle working God worked one of his mightiest miracles right there. I wonder if that elevated the lives of the citizens of Jericho. I wonder if they believed in God working miracles in their lives. You know the story of Jericho, right? I'm not going to go into it, but anyway. That he was still and well able to do miracles. It looks like from our story that maybe they are. I like how the book of Luke reports in this story, Jesus and the disciples entered the city, and when they left, there was a crowd with them. I like that. It was as if Jesus picked up people as he walked through Jericho like a magnet picks up pieces of iron. Before he left the city, he had a throng around him. We are drawn to Jesus like that. We just can't stay away. Got to hear his words. Got to be near him, like breathing. We don't know exactly what Jesus did while he was on that trip to Jericho. It appears that the people gladly received him and his wonders. It appears Jesus left them wanting more, so they never left him. Jericho was Zacchaeus' town, which is another story for another chapter. It would be quite a miracle if each citizen of Jericho was transformed by Jesus the way Zacchaeus was. Some towns didn't want the transformation that Jesus brought, but it looks like Jericho did. Good for Jericho. But Jesus didn't stay. He had a big job to do. He had to keep moving. Once one city and then another, until he and his helpers went all throughout Israel. As Jesus was leaving town, there was poor blind Bartimaeus sitting by the road. I call him poor Bartimaeus because I read a children's book to my daughter so many times that I still have it memorized all those years later. Poor Bartimaeus, his eyes were sick. He couldn't see the town. He couldn't see the people. He couldn't see the children. Poor Bartimaeus. My daughter, Kristen, who was only 2, but she could turn the pages and read the story word for word from memory, of course. When our friends saw her, they thought she was really reading the book. It was a hoot. But back to our story about poor Bartimaeus. He certainly was poor Bartimaeus. What must it be like to be blind, to live in total darkness? I don't know if it would be worse to have had sight for a little while and then to lose it, or to have never seen the light of day. Either way, my heart goes out to anyone who is blind. Let's thank the Lord for our eyesight right now. As I write this, I'm sitting on the back patio, enjoying the beautiful spring flowers and the cardinals that keep returning for birdseed from our feeder, and our cute dachshunds that make me laugh. I'm able to enjoy writing this story and reading God's word and surfing the net for inspiration. I'm able to see my beautiful daughters and look into my wonderful husband's eyes, and on and on and on. Thank you, Lord. But Bartimaeus' eyes were sick. He couldn't do any of that, of course. People who are blind in this day of marvelous technological advances can do much more than Bart could to live meaningful, productive, fulfilling lives. But Bart sat by the road to Jericho because that was pretty much all he could do, sit and beg every day. Bart could hear what was going on around him, but not really participate. Every day he spread a garment all around him and shouted for coins, and then he would listen for coins to land. That way people didn't have to get near him or risk touching him. Poor Bartimaeus. One thing Bart had going for him was this: he didn't mind begging. That might sound a little strange, but it sure did come in handy when Jesus walked by. That's really our only stance before God, and it's a blessing to be willing to beg from God. The religious leaders thought they were too good to beg. The people of Nazareth weren't about to beg from this worst whippersnapper they'd known from childhood. The people of Bethsaida didn't think they needed God for anything. They felt fine on their own. The Gerasenes did beg. They begged Jesus to leave rather than beg him to stay and to bless them with his words and miracles. But Bart knew better. He knew he needed a miracle. He needed Jesus. Bart couldn't read God's word for himself. This was long before Braille was invented or audio Bibles or the internet, but he had learned enough to know that when the Messiah came, he would work miracles. Bart probably knew Isaiah 35 by heart. Quote, say to those with fearful hearts, be strong and do not fear, for your God is coming to destroy your enemies. He is coming to save you. And when he comes, he will open the eyes of the blind and unplug the ears of the deaf. The lame will leap like a deer, and those who cannot speak will sing for joy. Isaiah 35, 4-6. I believe that's being fulfilled in this day because all of our eyes are being opened collectively, right? Continuing, I just know Bart was one of those fearful hearts who had taken courage by this promise in Isaiah. He knew God worked miracles. He lived in Jericho, for goodness sakes. So when he heard news that Jesus was making the lame to leap and unplugging deaf ears, he knew Jesus could also open the eyes of the blind, his eyes. Bart must have been so excited to hear that the Son of David had come in his lifetime. I imagine Bart prayed for the Lord not only to send coins flying his way, but to send the Messiah his way too. Every day Bart's hope was today could be the day. One of these days, the Messiah will come by me in answer to my prayers. And when he does, here's what I will do. I will recognize him as the Son of David, the promised Messiah, because the Son of David is the one who can open the eyes of the blind. I'm going to make the biggest scene I've ever made. I will shout as loud as my ancestors did 1,400 years ago when they made the walls of Jericho come tumbling down. That's what I would have done if I had been with Bartimaeus. If I had been Bartimaeus. Bart kept that hope alive day after day after day. So one day, just like any other day, Bart was sitting in his usual spot, and he began to hear a big commotion. You just know Jesus was coming straight through Jericho, right past Bartimaeus, in answer to Bart's prayers. Passing by Bartimaeus was no coincidence. This was divine appointment. When we pray, the Lord sends answers walking right in front of us. That's reason enough to pray without ceasing. Look at Jesus acting all coy, as if he's just happening along, as if he was passing by Bart and he wasn't going to stop. I wonder if Bart hoped against hope that maybe this would be Jesus. Blind people can see with their ears. So when Bart heard the crowd, he asked, what's happening? He probably had to ask several times because before anybody paid attention to him. Folks are blind to the blind and to beggars. But Bartimaeus kept on asking, what is happening? Tell me, what is happening? I can still hear my 2-year-old shouting, what is happening? As she read the book and saw the wide-eyed mouth of Bartimaeus in the storybook. It's Jesus. He's coming this way. Immediately, Bartimaeus put his plan into action. He didn't know which way to go, so he just stayed put where he was sitting. He knew better than to find Jesus by wandering aimlessly. But remember, Bart had another thing going for him. Bart shouted for a living, and he let her rip. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. He usually shouted for coins, but this time Bart took his shouting up a notch or two. He kept shouting, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, over and over and over. Now was no time to be shy. He was not going to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Bart was going to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, until Jesus, the Son of David, had mercy on him. He didn't care what anyone thought. He didn't care if someone didn't believe that Jesus was the promised Son of David. Bartimaeus was blind, but he could see that if Jesus fulfilled the prophecies of the Messiah, he was the Messiah. The people told Bart, be quiet. Looks like Bartimaeus annoyed the people. Looks like they usually just tried to ignore him. They'd probably heard him begging for years, and they were used to telling him to pipe down. Bart, you don't matter. You're just a beggar on the streets. We really just wish you would be quiet and go away. You obviously don't matter to God either. We don't need we don't need eyes to see that he doesn't care about you either. Lord, save us from such cold indifference. And the Bible says that many people yelled at Bart to zip it. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, it says. You have got to be kidding me. How could they be so cruel to try to stop Bart from getting help from Jesus? How sad. They might feel differently if they were the ones sitting on the side of the road, blind and begging. How callous the people were to Bart's suffering. Lord, help us to open our eyes to people around us and their needs. Hello. Bart was not just an annoyance. He was blind, but the people were so blind. Why didn't they realize this was the perfect opportunity for Jesus to give Bartimaeus his sight? Is it because they'd walked right past him for so long, his being anyone but blind Bartimaeus didn't even cross their minds? Is it because they were so slow to believe that God could do miracles? Is it because it was just so hard to love our neighbors as ourselves? Or all of the above? Ugh. Lord, help us to believe that you can transform any life. Help us to reach out to each one and give them hope in your ability to rescue. Help us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Bart didn't pay the people any attention. He shouted all the louder, just like when the walls came tumbling down with a loud shout hundreds of years before. Bartimaeus shouted with all his might. Somehow, above all the noise of the crowd, Jesus heard Bartimaeus' cries. Jesus had extra sensitive hearing to the cries of those who need him, especially those who call him with a humble heart, and especially when they acknowledge him for who he truly is, the Son of David, the promised Messiah, Jesus, the Christ. Of course, Jesus had been waiting, longing to help Bart, so he was straining his ears to hear Bart's voice calling him. Jesus had heard Bart so many times whispering to him in prayer. Now Jesus was going to answer that prayer, and this is what Jesus just loves to do. The Bible says Jesus stopped. Funny how the people told Bartimaeus to stop shouting, but the one who stopped in his tracks was Jesus. He wasn't moving one more inch until he took care of Bartimaeus. And Jesus wasn't leaving until he taught these folks a lesson that Bartimaeus was very important to him. Bart was not a nuisance to Jesus. Bart was his friend, and Jesus loved him. Jesus told the people to have Bartimaeus come to him. Jesus could have easily walked over to Bart or even healed him without even stopping. But Jesus was getting the people to reach out to Bartimaeus. Come on, y'all. Join my team. Yeah, you. Go get Bartimaeus. The one that you all think is so unimportant, the one you're yelling at to stop shouting. Yeah, him. Bring him to me. I just love Jesus. Well, now the crowd jumped on the Bart bandwagon. Hey, old pal Bartimaeus, we've got great news. Jesus is calling you. I imagine how quickly they changed their tune. I picture them now hurrying to help Bartimaeus find Jesus. Maybe someone who wanted to appear kind-hearted even escorted Bartimaeus to Jesus. Nothing like fickle. Gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling inside, like nausea. Bart didn't care anything about any of that. Jesus was calling him. Little old blind beggar Bartimaeus. Jesus was going to heal him. Any help to get to Jesus was good help as far as Bart was concerned. He threw aside his garment, sprang up like a rocket, hurried to Jesus. Coins went flying. Bart didn't care about the coins either. He was getting to Jesus fast, and that was all that mattered. In short, Bartimaeus was standing right in front of Jesus. I bet you can hear a pin drop, and if anybody made a noise, they were probably told to zip it. Jesus looked into Bartimaeus' eyes that were so cold and dead. He asked, "What do you want me to do for you?" Does that seem like a funny question to anybody besides me? Duh. The eyesight thing, right? Of course, Jesus knew what Bartimaeus wanted, and of course, Jesus could have healed him without Bartimaeus saying a word, but Jesus was showing Bartimaeus tremendous respect. Bart, the one no one paid attention to, the one everyone dismissed and discounted and didn't even consider the worth of the time for Jesus to heal. Bart, the one many rebuked and told to be quiet. Jesus wanted to hear what Bart had to say. Jesus cared about Bart, not just his eyes. Bartimaeus was important to Jesus. Bart couldn't see Jesus, just like he never could see him when he prayed, but Bart knew this was his Lord. Have you ever noticed that when Bart was face to face with Jesus, he didn't call him Son of David? Bart called Jesus Lord. You are my Lord. You're the Lord of my life, Lord of my eyesight, Lord of my days spent sitting by the roadside. Lord, I want to receive my sight. That's what I want. Well, Jesus didn't have Bartimaeus wait 1 second longer. Jesus healed him right on the spot. Jesus said, "Your faith has healed you. You didn't let the cruel words stop you from shouting my name. You didn't harden your heart against me because of your affliction. You believed I'm the promised Son of David. You didn't let anything keep you from me. That is true faith, Bartimaeus." And remember the precious children's book? It ended this way. Bartimaeus could see the town. He could see the people. He could see the children. And Bartimaeus could see Jesus. Imagine that. The first thing Bartimaeus saw when his eyes were opened was Jesus' smiling face. The face Bartimaeus had been praying to. The face he'd been longing to see for so long. The face of his best friend who loved him just as he was. I imagine Bart looked into Jesus' eyes, and both of them knowing that they had been friends for a very long time. I imagine them both smiling as Jesus put his arm around Bart's shoulders and showed him all the people. And then he showed Bart the city of Jericho. And then he showed Bart the roadside where he'd been sitting all those years, looking at these for the very first time with his brand new eyes. And then Jesus showed Bartimaeus the road he was leaving on. Jesus told Bart to go his way in peace, but Bartimaeus wanted to go with Jesus. And that sounded like a great idea to Jesus too. So that's what Bart did. Bart had his sight and a new life, far from sitting beside the road as a blind beggar, and he got to see Jesus every day. Bart was part of Jesus' entourage that followed him wherever he went. These folks just wouldn't leave his side. They wanted to listen and learn and just be near him. I wonder if Bart was one of those who followed Jesus all the way to Jerusalem. I wonder if Bart was in the middle of the crowd that yelled to crucify Jesus, and he saw how fickle the crowds were to Jesus too. I wonder if Bart saw with his own eyes the horrific sight of Jesus on the cross. Maybe Bart locked his eyes with Jesus, and Jesus was encouraged. I wonder if Bart got to see Jesus after he raised from the dead. Now, wouldn't that be a sight? If Jesus wrote Bartimaeus a letter, it would probably be something like this one, and Bart could read it for himself. Bartimaeus, you are the finest example of great eyesight I know, and I'm talking about before I gave you your physical eyesight. Even though you were blind, you saw that I was the Messiah. You saw that I was your Lord. You saw that people's cruel words didn't matter beans. You saw that following me and helping others see my love was better than staying in Jericho and being a rock star. And I've been using your life to teach those lessons for 1,000 years, and I'm still praying for the blind to receive their sight, to see spiritual things. So many walk around in blindness, leading aimless lives, living only for what they can see with their eyes, groping around in the darkness of sin and self, and they don't even know it. If they would only shout out my name, I would open their eyes to a whole new world. You discovered that not being able to see my kingdom is far, far worse than not seeing the things of this world. I'm so glad you're on my team, and you were willing to surrender your life to my higher purpose. By the way, I love seeing your eyes open for the very first time, and the look on your face when you saw my face. You knew it was me, that I was your friend who had been beside you through it all. It brings me the same joy each time my children get their spiritual sight. Instead of just hearing about me and my words, they see my love and the new life I have for them for the very first time. You, my buddy Bart, are the ultimate example of that miracle of sight. One day, you will see people in heaven with your very own eyes, as far as the eye can see. These will be the people who began to see my love because of your faith. Your faith healed you, and it has been instrumental in healing countless more. Just you wait and see. I love you, Bart. Jesus. Y'all like my book? Isn't that a great story? I love Bart. Isn't that great? I love Bart. I just love it. And it's called Jesus the Man, Jesus the Miracle Man. Jesus the Miracle. I'll put a link in the description below. And so you can share it. It's something easy to share with people so that they can get to see what Jesus is really like, not what the propaganda has said about him. This is the real Jesus and people who met him. I hope you guys enjoy that, because I loved writing that book. Let's pray. Thank you so much, Lord, for your word. Help us to see like Bartimaeus. Help us to see through all the propaganda that people have said about you, and to really come to know you, who you are, and to sense your love for us, and to know that we are important to you. Each one of us is important to you. We're your precious children, not just collectively, but each one of us. Thank you, Lord, for your word, that if we look for treasure, we will find it in your word. Everywhere we look, your word just opens up to us. Thank you, Lord. You speak it to us. It's not just words on a page. It's you speaking. That you are the word, and you speak to our hearts, and you live within our hearts. Thank you so much, Lord, for this, all that you're revealing to us in this great day. We are so ready for everyone to know you as their Lord, like Bartimaeus, and for their eyes to be opened. We pray, oh Lord, that even now, as we go and we get back out in the battle, that we would help others to open their eyes to see in this great day, and that all those who've been lying, they'll be stopped, because no one will believe them anymore, because they'll know what the truth is. We pray all these things in your great name, Jesus. Amen. All right, guys, I love you. I will talk to you soon. All right, bye.